Hello folks, it's Saturday and that means it's time for me to talk about an episode of a superhero cartoon series. Today I am here to discuss an episode of the Legion of Superheroes titled Child's Play. This episode was not as crowded as the previous episode, Phantoms, but at the same time I didn't find it to be a very good episode either. The episode begins with a magical child who greatly resembles Mr. Mixia Spitlick causing havoc on Earth. This conveniently starts happening right when Superman is marveling at the technology of the future. The Legion starts to deal with this kid who, well, have you ever seen a child in TV or movies who is charming and likable? Well, this kid is not. In fact, I get very much that the people behind this episode want me to hate this kid, but I do so much that I actually hate watching the episode when he's on screen, which is quite a bit, and that's a problem if these people want me to keep watching their cartoon. Anyway, the kid starts attacking the Legion because he hates being told what to do. And Phantom Girl decides to go to his homeworld, which her mother told her about, a sorcerer's world, and she hopes that there she can get the people to take their brat back. And that's basically it. While she's trying to get stuff done there, the Legion members fight the brat, and then the episode ends. Where the previous episode just felt really bloated in many ways, and even some of their most basic ideas didn't really work in the grand scheme of things, this episode has some significantly smaller problems. Still problems, but not quite so glaring, at least in my humble. For instance, the kid's magic begins to wear off of all of the Legion members who are fighting him once he's a few hundred feet away. Meanwhile, an entire galaxy away, Triplicate Girl is suffering from the effects of the kid's spell. So is it just that proximity to the kid determines how long the spell lasts, unless it doesn't? That's just an example, but once you begin to notice the inconsistencies on the most basic level, it just becomes that much harder to watch this episode. Like, this episode brings back Zod Jr.'s pets from the previous episode, which in my mind means that this episode is indirectly referencing the fact that the Legion were seen as basically enemies of the state in that episode. And yet, also we are seeing that the Legion are more or less friends of the state, as one of their own is the daughter of the president of the galaxy. So which is it, black or white? Another thing that kinda bugged me was the weird jump in logic that the writers seem to take with the existence of a sorcerer's world. Obviously, it's a planet where everyone is magical, or at least most everyone. And yet, really, this looks more like where all the Warner Brother cartoons live, with their pseudo-physics and all. We're even told that their laws are arcane and backwards. Now, I guess I don't mind this world being arcane and backwards, but can we at least be told why it is that way? Is it because they're sorcerers? If so, that's kinda dumb, right? Just because someone knows magic doesn't mean that they're a complete idiot when it comes to matters of the law, right? Like these guys who have a ridiculous system of law that I cannot even begin to fathom. I do find it a little, not really troubling, but just fairly unoriginal that Brainiac 5 at Coluan goes to the "this is highly illogical" line about 3 times in this episode. Coluans aren't Vulcans, people. I get that the Coluans can be jerks, or at least in some versions of the Legion, Brainiac 5 can be a jerk, but that doesn't mean that these guys are Vulcans, right? And yeah, I get that in some versions of Star Trek, depending on the series and the writer, Vulcans can be very rude. But I guess where I'm coming down on this is that the Legion has the potential to be so weird and out there, with lots of really neat concepts getting together in this really quite unique setting. And one thing I just don't want to see this series do in any medium is try to ape something familiar just to make sure that the audience understands what's going on. Overall, I don't even know if I have much else to say about the episode. It really just seemed kinda unimportant. A bratty imp comes, the Legion have to get rid of him, and that involves going to his world, which it ends up being a darned if you do, darned if you don't scenario. This isn't even like the previous episode, where Superboy does something kinda stupid and has to fix his mistake. I should applaud the Legion for wanting to get rid of this kid, even though they didn't bring him here, but because none of them are responsible for this kid being here, he just showed up, I also don't feel like I'm connected to any of them via this plot. A few of the previous episodes tried to feature one or two Legionnaires specifically, and this one does give Phantom Girl something to do, and oddly enough, I don't hate her like I have in the past, so that's something that this episode has going for it. Basically, this episode didn't quite do it for me. I'm kind of bummed at this point because I didn't really like this episode or the episode before it, but I want this series to be good. I've liked a few episodes of the series so far, and I'm hoping that this show can return to form and really wow me with some Legion goodness. And maybe in 2 weeks it can. But a week from today, I will be returning to an episode of Batman the Animated Series. Until then, I encourage you guys to come back to my channel throughout the rest of the week, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you liked what you heard here. Until then, I'll see you next time. Have a good day.